My name is Jen, and today I'd like to share some rules that I try to follow each day in order to be the best parent that I can be. So let's get started. So these are some tips that I have tried to employ since I had children. I have two children. They're both boys and they are about 18 months apart. I really like to try and make sure that I follow these rules as much as possible each day to really make sure that I'm doing the best that I can to raise them. So I tried to come up with rules that affect my relationship with my partner, that affect how I interact with them, how much I interact with them, and what I do when I interact with them. So let's get started. So my first tip or rule is to talk with your partner, if you have one, and plan everything. I've just found it to be far more effective to have plans and to discuss things in advance rather than being caught by surprise on them. So my husband and I talk about hypothetical situations all the time. We also talk about different events that happen throughout the day, even if they're small, and we just get each other's opinion and feedback on the events, situations, experiences, whatever. And that way we both are on the same page, we know what's going on, and we also have a collective plan for moving forward. That way, if one of us is out or something like that, the other person is still responding in a good and positive way, and we're both able to move forward. There's not dad says one thing and mom says another thing type of issue. So that's the first tip. A part of that tip is also to revise and edit the plan often. So you may not be able to do this every day. I think as much as possible, it's good to go over things every day. However, sometimes life is just crazy and you can't do that. But whenever possible, I think that it's really important to try and touch base with each other, your partner, and also talk with your kids. And if your kids bring up good, compelling arguments, I think that it's really good to seriously consider those and talk them over with your partner and potentially implement them. Also, each child is different. There are different experiences and circumstances that they face, and so you want to make sure that your rules, that the way you're interacting with them, that the routines and habits and schedules that you have, that they work well for each child and that they're tailored for each child. I think it's really good to have goals and to plan and put in a lot of work in advance, but I also think it's good to follow up with those plans and see if they really are effective and see how the child is interacting with them. After all, the goal is to make sure that we're doing our best for our children and our specific children. So I think it's really good to try and tailor to each child and to each need and circumstance, all while having a general plan. So I hope that is understandable and clear enough. So I mentioned this already. I'm a really big proponent of routines and schedules. I'm actually very much a type B person. I'm very relaxed and chill, so this is really kind of new to me and not really what I'm super comfortable with. But I've just found that it's super helpful when I am able to schedule things and have a routine that I follow. It actually gives me a lot more freedom and flexibility to do more spontaneous and fun, relaxing things. So I really like routines and schedules. I think especially with kids, with chores, with work, with all of these other things going on, I think that it really helps to ensure that you're spending the bare minimum amount of time doing all of these extra things that you maybe don't want to do. So rather than spending a whole day doing laundry and cleaning the house, you can just do a little bit each day, and then you can have most of the weekend free. So I really like things like that as far as the parenting aspect, taking care of chores and really scheduling things out that way. But then also I think they're really helpful for children as well, just to know that there is a little bit more of a steady, reliable, consistent schedule. Again, I am a type B person, so I also do allow for some differences between day to day. I don't try to keep it down to the exact minute, but generally between 12 and 12:30, I try and start lunch. Between 1 and 1:30, I try and have them down for their nap, different things like that. So I do give myself a little bit of a range, but I do try to stick to that range as much as possible, and I try to have the same types of things each day, so that way it's a little bit more reliable and consistent. So there are a couple different ways that you can do different schedules. You can keep it down to the exact minute if you want, if that works better for you. You can just have a few general things and just do it that way. I definitely recommend playing around with that and figuring out what works best for you and your family and your circumstances. But if possible, I definitely would recommend trying to come up with routines and schedules. A weekly menu really helps with a lot of the guesswork with meals and just makes grocery shopping easy. So I think that a lot of those things are really helpful. So I recommend giving those a try if you can. So along with that, another tip that I have is making the bedtime routine as fun as possible. So for this, I think it's really good to just really set up a really nice schedule, having it be productive, of course, where you're getting them ready for bed, dressed, you're brushing their teeth. If they have a nightly bath time, that you do that, making sure that they're fully fed and they've had enough to drink a bit earlier before they go to bed, so that way they're not having to go so much during the night. But I also think it's really good to try and make it as fun as possible. So I really like to have story time. I'll use this time to really talk with my son a little bit and bond with him. My youngest is still nursing, and so we don't have the same type of routine for him, but for my oldest son, I really like to try and make sure that I'm spending some good quality bonding time with him. I know that especially as the years pass and as he gets older and he goes off to school and other things like that, I won't be seeing him as much during the day. So I think that it's really important to really set aside time at night where you can really talk with your child, really spend some time with them and see how they're doing, how their day is. Just having that routine and that consistency can really help to ensure and let your child know that you really care about them and you're always going to spend a few minutes with them each night. And I just think that's super wonderful. I know that things can get really crazy and busy for a lot of people and families. I just think that it means a lot to kids when you can put a consistent effort into giving them some time. And that brings up my next tip, and that is try to spend 5 to 10 minutes each day with each child uninterrupted. And that actually may not sound like a whole lot, but especially if you're busy, if you're working, if your kid has a lot of programs and activities that they're involved in, chores, meals, other things like that, a lot of the day is consumed with those types of things. But whenever I try to spend 5 minutes of uninterrupted time just with my child one-on-one, with no phones, I'm not doing dishes, there's no technology, any of those types of things, I'm really just interacting with my child one-on-one. I just find that that is really good for me. Both my children really like that. They really just light up and they're just all smiles and happiness during that time. And that makes me happy and helps to energize me and further motivate me. Also, when I do try and go to the effort to spend 5 to 10 minutes just focused on each one of them, I find that I usually end up spending a little bit more time than that. So that's another great benefit of really trying to spend some one-on-one time with them without doing something else or using technology or anything like that. I think that putting that effort in really helps you to just give them time at all. I do spend a lot of time with them in meals and bath time and reading and playtime and other things like that. But that is joint time where I'm spending with both of my boys, and then with meals and cleaning and stuff, I'm distracted and doing some other things. So I really try to make sure that there's some time each day where I'm just spending some quality time, even just a few minutes, focused on each one of them. And again, whenever I do, they are all smiles and happiness. So I think it's really worthwhile. The next thing that I have is pretty similar to that, and that is to say I love you every day. This is a very simple thing to do. Most of the time I say it about 20 times a day, but I always try to say it at least once. I think that it's just so important to let your children know that you love them and care about them, and even if they get a little upset during the day or they have a fit or something like that. I think that it's really important, especially at night, to still say I love you and to let them know that your love is not conditional and that they are doing good and that you always love and care for them. As much as possible, I think it's great to be positive and affirming with children. I obviously don't remember what it's like to be a 1-year-old or 2-year-old, but just all of the things that they're having to deal with, there's still so many things that they're experiencing for the very first time in their lives. They're learning language, so that they don't really know how to communicate a whole lot of the things, and that can be really frustrating. So I really want to try and make sure that I'm giving them a safe, comfortable, and happy environment where they can learn, grow, and flourish. I want them to excel and be happy, and so I want to do everything that I can to make sure that they are doing that. And as a mom, I love them so much, and I want to make sure that they know that at all times. Similar to that, I am a very affectionate person. I think that affection is very important, so I also really try to make sure that I hug and kiss each of my children each day. Again, I think that's another great opportunity to let them know how much you care about them, but it's also a great way to give them some individual attention, especially if you make a point of saying I love you and then their name and looking at them. That's just very affirming, and it just really lets them know that you're talking to them and you care about them. And again, it's a chance to just really focus on them for a moment, and I think that that is really, really meaningful. Especially if you have several children, I think that that is really, really helpful to let each and every one of them know that you care about them and that you love them and they have meaning and value. With these two last tips, saying I love you and then giving a hug and a kiss, I also try to make sure that I do that with my partner as well. I think that that is really, really important for your children to see that you have a good relationship with your partner. There's that benefit for them, but there's also the benefit for you, your partner, and your relationship together. Oftentimes in relationships, it can just be so hard to invest and pay attention to the married relationship or the adult relationship when there are children involved, but it really is important, and so I really want to make sure that I'm doing the best that I can to let my partner know that I care about them, I value them, and I really love them. And I know that I really appreciate being on the receiving end of that as well. I'll also leave a link below to a book review that I did. The book is called And Baby Makes Three, and it's by John Gottman. So I definitely recommend checking that out. But in that book, he argues that it is really important to make sure that your relationship with your partner is strong and healthy. If you're fighting with your partner, that trickles down to your children. And if you have a positive, happy, and healthy relationship with your partner, that will also affect your children in a positive way. So as much as possible, I really try to make sure that I'm doing the work to make sure that my partner and I are happy and healthy and working together well, and then that we're also caring for our children well, and also setting a good example. So I forgot to mention this when I filmed this video the first time, but I did want to mention it because it's a really good one, I think. And that is that every day I try to make sure that my sons laugh at least once, usually a couple of times. So I'll make funny faces, I'll spin them around and dance with them, I'll tell them a joke or something funny, I'll find something that they really enjoy and they'll laugh at, like a show, music video, or a video that I filmed of them that is really funny, and we'll just watch that again on my phone. I'll say words funny, I'll do a lot of crazy things to try and make sure that my sons are happy and laughing at least a couple of times a day, at least once a day, because I think that that's really important. I found that in my own life, and I've observed with some of my other friends and family, that when I laugh and when they laugh a lot, they tend to be happier during those times. So I really like to make sure that I'm putting in that effort to make sure that my sons are getting some enjoyment and some laughter and happiness each day. For me, that's just a nice and easy check to make sure that I'm not only providing them with the basics of what they need, food, water, shelter, safety, sleep, but I'm also providing them with other things that they really enjoy. So laughter, enjoyment, happiness, curiosity. So I want to make sure that they have good, healthy childhoods and that they grow to be healthy and strong, but I also want them to be happy and I want them to have a happy childhood. So that's just a way that I like to just make sure that I'm really looking out for their happiness as well. So it's a good check on me. I think it's a good habit for them. I think it's really great if they can be laughing every day, and it also helps me to laugh a lot more. Laughing can be very contagious. So that is another tip I try to do every day, at least once, usually a few times though. Finally, this is a tip that is geared a little bit more toward older children, but I think that it's really important to ask about your children's day and to also ask about their interests. So right now my oldest is 2. He's not really able to share a whole lot about his interests yet. I do try and talk to him as much as I can about things that I see him showing an interest in. But as he gets older, I hope to be able to really ask him about things that really interest him, and then also to hear about his day and how he's perceiving his day. Right now I'm a stay-at-home mom and I love it. Even so, I want to know how he is experiencing things because I have my perspective, but I also want to know how the day is going from his perspective to see what things he really enjoyed, what things he didn't, what things he's looking forward to, if there's any things that he has questions about. I think just spending a few minutes to talk to your kid about them and how they're experiencing life and also the things that they're interested in. Again, it's really affirming. It really shows that you love and care and value them, and it also just gives you a chance to get to know your child a little bit better. So I really appreciate that, and I'm really excited to be able to do that more. So those are the things that I try to do each day to make sure that I am taking care of myself, my partner, and our relationship, and also my children. I want to be making sure that I'm creating an environment in which they are safe, happy, and successful. I hope that this is helpful for you. If you have any other tips, please leave them in the comments below. That way we can all learn from them. If you have any other questions or comments, please leave them down below. I'd love to get to know more about you. I hope that you have a great day. Bye.